Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Leal, and today, February 17th, we had the solar eclipse in Aquarius. But I just wanted to remind you that this is just simply an open door for the next 6 months, and is an energy that continues to be manifesting, and later is going to be mixed up with the one of the next eclipse that I'm going to talk about in short. The moon is already out of Aquarius. It entered in Pisces, and something very important that I forgot with all the big events of this week is that tomorrow, February 18th, the sun enters in Pisces. So the stellium that before was in Aquarius right now is moving to this sign. This means that we enter in this greater contact with the subtle of the energy inside and outside. It's also a phase of a emotional assimilation of what needs to come to an end and to dissolve in ourselves. And the fact that Mercury is also going to be retrograde in Pisces accompanies this, this phase of immersion, of reflection. I'm going to talk about that later. Today, I wanted to turn the focus again in the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in Aries that is about to be perfected. This energy is very, very strong right now because it's part of the eclipse, and on the other side, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So tomorrow the sun is going to respond to this Neptune in Aries that is in union with Saturn. We are going to experiment a different Pisces season this time. This conjunction puts in evidence for everyone things linked with the original impulses through we want to act. Both, if we are talking to advance in a direction that we feel intimately connected with our soul, as establishing boundaries, giving structure to something which is more related to Saturn, or regarding our desires, which is what Aries represents. And collectively, we have a lot of to develop in maturity in Saturnian things, of responsibility and self-regulation, determination, and also in topics regarding Neptune, surrendering to the mystery of life, trusting in our intuition, this illusion of perceptions that are preventing us from moving forward. And as every aspect, what happens is that these energies could be manifested in very unconscious ways. For example, the desire areas of conquering something, of opening the way in a certain direction, could lead us to not measure or regulate our actions till the point that we are trying to ultrapass boundaries of other people. And the determination turns into abuse and authoritarianism, or even to be aggressive with others because the limits or the boundaries that are establishing, using the fact that we are going through difficulties or challenges as an excuse for those behaviors, trying to impose a vision, a belief, or a perception by force, forcing other people to validate, comprehend, or empathize with us. This is more a shadow of Neptune in Aries. And that is not something that we can actually force, because if we are doing that, that ends up in abuse and manipulation. Both of them are connecting with Pluto and Aquarius. And with forcing, I'm not only talking about the behavior of excessive aggressiveness of the shadow of Aries, also the victimization to justify imbalanced behaviors, or to impose others how we want them to act as a form of manipulation. These are the low aspects of Neptune. I am saying this because all of these expressions, we could observe them in figures that have certain positions of authority, or people that are in the power and that are exercising that in a very authoritarian way towards society. And the work that it is most uncomfortable to do is precisely to look at ourselves in the reflection of those authoritarian figures, and observing if there are no areas in our lives in which we are exercising this with other people. Because many times the ones that are considering themselves empathetic, they end up expressing this kind of attitudes. In the cases that this happens the most is precisely in people that are forcing themselves to tolerate circumstances that don't desire to tolerate in other areas of life. So the repression of the authenticity, which is Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius, and of the boundary Saturn that the soul wants to establish, because there are experiences that they don't want to tolerate anymore, can make those people to lose control and self-regulation in other areas, like to explode in spaces that we don't need to, or act as we shouldn't. And the abuse that we can allow in an area of life is a dynamic that we could exercise in other spaces, or we could attract that externally. This means that it is emerging in different areas. Obviously, this could manifest also figures of authority or people in the power that are reproducing this in absurd dynamics. So we can catch that the shadow in the collective structures that we see on the outside. We need to look at that first on the inside, even if it's uncomfortable, because the ones that can actually place their ego, which is an aspect of identity, Aries, in the plane of matter at the service of spirit, well, those are people that are that have the capacity to retire their own veils, to see their imbalances and to correct them, even if it's not pleasant to do that. Also, there is this other polarity, which is repressing our own force. You know, the aggressiveness, that imbalance allows us to act, decide, initiate. And with the presence of Saturn, to step firmly and say no to something, or expressing our voice in a circumstance where our boundaries are being trespassed. And this repression could attract circumstances, external circumstances, where other people are imposing themselves, or other people are making decisions without considering if they are invading our space, or even, doing things, aggressions with like provocations. And here we have a challenge too, because this is about finding a middle point between not acting from our impulsiveness and emotional dysregulation, but at the same time being determinant with dynamics or behaviors that we don't want to tolerate. Because if there are people that can direct that kind of attitude and sustain that in time, I mean attitudes in which they are not taking responsibility, or that are crashing with our essential values and our inner peace, it is because we are allowing that in life and in social structures. And not allowing that, it is not to scream, to insult, or burning everything. Not allowing that in the case of a relationship is, in first place, expressing the boundary. If the other person continues to insist in transgressing the boundary, then we move to the action, which is retiring the energy, because continuing explaining is not putting a boundary. And then the other person has the possibility to notice, to apologize, and to repair. Repair is acting with true consistency and to change a behavior that actually causes harm, or has the possibility to not do that. And also that gives us information of the level of responsibility that person has in their dynamics. This implies a great boundary with ourselves. It could be challenging, not investing energy more than we should, discussing, battling to be right, and learning to establish exchanges from a more mature place. This doesn't mean to cede, everything that is important for us. And with other people, we are going to be able to resolve those conflicts and to grow. And with other people, it is not going to be possible, because we are in different processes, or because they are not manifesting any will of observing themselves. And it is healthy to recognize that we don't need to insist anymore in certain things, in the case of corrupt social structures is also applicative. After all that is coming to light, all the perversions that are sustained of the dark networks that involve children, keep insisting in changing the system, or keep investing energy on the system, is craziness. Especially because the people that are manipulating the things haven't any will of change. They don't have remorse even. So this is the moment to put energy in building new structures, new forms, each one of their own from their own process, from their own path, function, purpose. And without doubts, this is going to require decisions that are determinant, that are courage, that are challenging to at certain moments, but that can actually honor the values, the highest values of the soul and of love and of human evolution. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.